So how do we build rapport using matching and mirroring? Well, we do something called pacing and leading. This is a concept we're going to be looking at a lot when talking about influencing and persuading. So, first, we pace the person by matching and mirroring body language, voice tone, words, or just their model of the world. And at some point, we need to test to see if we've built enough rapport and influence that we can now lead that conversation and make our suggestions without resistance. So, for body language, the test might be to do something like scratching the back of your head or taking a sip of water, just some tiny gesture, and paying attention to whether that person then echoes that gesture subconsciously. If they do, it means we've now formed that partnership at the subconscious level. We can now invite that person to consider our suggestions or our point or bring up the thing we want to discuss, and not before. This is really important. This is why we put emphasis on small talk before getting down to business. It really does serve a huge purpose and can ultimately make or break your meeting. So it's always worth that extra bit of time to build rapport. Now, if the test gesture is not reciprocated, it means that the rapport isn't strong enough yet. So just keep working on the relationship and try again. And this is ultimately the skill of being able to build rapport rapidly. And that's what we're aiming for. Is we're talking seconds. We really want to that magical elixir of influence. We want rapport in seconds. We don't want to have to wait 20 minutes. So the more you practice, the better you will get at creating that environment, creating that state where you immediately put people at ease. Now, you know when you've got rapport because you just feel it. It feels really comfortable. And because they're responsive in the affirmative, they share more information with you and they seem relaxed and at ease with you. But how do we make sure that we do matching and mirroring correctly? Because there is the risk that if you are consciously paying attention to somebody's body language, that they'll notice that you're doing it and that may completely break rapport. So we do everything in building rapport, especially with matching and mirroring, using these 3 rules, which are be slow, be subtle, and be authentic. Now, what that means is if somebody is in the middle of a conversation and they cross their legs, don't immediately cross your legs because you're trying to match and mirror. Take a beat, take a sip of water and then adjust your posture if need be. Now, trust me, the more you practice this with people that in safe environments, there'll come a point you don't even think about it anymore. You're just so good at it. You probably would end up doing it more quickly, but you're just not paying attention to it. So don't be quick. That will draw somebody's attention and be really cringy and embarrassing. So the next one is subtle. Now, the biggest thing you could do to kind of, blow your cover on this is to look at the thing that you're actually matching and mirroring. So we're so sensitive to where people's eyes are looking that, if you're in the middle of a meal with someone and you look at their cheek, people will kind of go, oh, have I got something on my face? So if you're trying to match and mirror somebody's posture, don't, give them the once up and down with your eyes, use peripheral vision and be as subtle as you possibly can about it. Do not get caught doing this because it's just very awkward and the person will feel very uncomfortable. So the whole point is you're doing this to put the other person at ease. If you don't do it subtly and slowly, you're going to give them the complete opposite experience. Finally, authenticity. So people often say, well, what if that person sits in a way that I would never sit? Or what if they're really highly demonstrative and I really don't like using my hands? Well, ultimately, you've got to be authentic. If you would never, ever sit that way, if you would never, ever use your hands that way, if you would never, ever use those words, then don't. You can still match and mirror loads of things that you're seeing, hearing, without needing to pretend to be something you're not, or do something that makes you feel uncomfortable. You can, when it comes to posture, you can often just get close enough. So if somebody's got their legs crossed and what you're wearing perhaps, or just physically you're not capable of sitting that way, you could cross your ankles instead. And it's still kind of patterns and shapes, but more authentic to you. So remember, there's a way around everything, but slow, subtle, authentic, and then get as close as possible. Before long, you won't even notice you're doing it, and you'll be in sync. So you really don't have to think about it for very long.